Hi everyone, welcome to the Accenture Graduate Google Hangout. Thanks for joining us today, and thanks for taking the time out of your day to join us. We're doing this session today just to prep those students who've made it through to the first round interview, so I think it's important to say well done in getting through to this stage, because it was an extremely impressive turnout of applications. The standard was very high and very competitive, so well done in getting this far. We're going to use this opportunity today to just, I suppose, put your mind at ease a little bit in terms of what to expect for the interviews and give you some information that will help you prepare and feel confident going into them. So welcome any questions that anyone has. You can enter them into the bar and they'll pop up on the screen, and I'll be able to give them to our panel and hopefully we'll be able to help you answer them. So let me kick off and introduce myself. My name is Mairead Slowey. I'm a consultant here in Accenture. I've been working here for 2 years. I'm from Donegal originally, and I'm aligned to products. So within Accenture there are 5 different entities that you could be aligned to after your few years as analyst. So you join as part of an overall ACG analyst consulting group, which means that you're a pool of analysts that could be working in any area of the business, doing any types of work. So after spending a few years at analyst level, once promoted into consultant, I then got aligned to the products industry, where I had most of my experience, which is industries that are manufacturing, retail, transportation, and things like that. So I actually quite like it, but there's different areas for different people, and I think your years at analyst serve as a good foundation to decide which area would be suited for you. So if anyone has any questions about the different types, I think it would be good to have some kind of background for yourselves to understand the different types of work you could be doing in Accenture, and know that it wouldn't be just one type of work depending on your background. As analysts, you know, there is different things. Like, I don't have an IT background, and I worked as a business analyst for 6 months writing functional specifications. So it's kind of just getting to know that your skill set and your background, you know, you are going to have opportunities to learn new things. So that's a little bit about my time in Accenture so far. I also want to introduce the panel that we have today. So we have Anya Ryan, who's our graduate recruitment lead. She is in charge of all the interviews, all the applications, everything that's happening. So she's had a busy few weeks and another busy few weeks ahead. And also Katie Brennan, who is an analyst with us. And Katie will be giving her perspective of going through the process and any hints or tips that she would give to students in her position at that time. So let me kick off and hand over to Anya. Anya's going to give us a little bit more of an update around where we are in terms of timelines, in terms of when you can expect to get interviews, and exactly what would be required for that. Thanks.
Great, thanks, Marie. So, guys, hi. First of all, I just want to introduce myself. So, my name is Anya Ryan. I'm working in Accenture now about 5 years, and I've been responsible for the graduate recruitment program for that time. So, what I'm going to cover off is just where we are in the process at the moment, when you can expect communications from us, if that's going to be phone calls, emails, and then please, if you have any questions at all, just do pop in as well, okay? So at the moment, we've notified everyone about the first round interviews. So we will be doing 450 first round interviews. Those interviews are due to take place between the 23rd and the 26th of November. So for anyone based outside of Dublin, so for our NUIG, for UL, UU, Queen's and Cork, all those interviews will be held on campus, and you'll be notified hopefully by tomorrow evening your interview time and your interview date and who you're going to be meeting with. For anyone based in Dublin universities or Maynooth, they're all going to be held in our Grand Canal Square office and our Grand Canal Plaza office. And again, between today and tomorrow, some people would have been notified today, but by tomorrow evening, everyone should have the update on the date and time and your contact details for your interview. Okay? Each interview for first round will take roughly 40 to 45 minutes, and it's going to be a competency-based interview. So I think Katie's going to take you through exactly what you can expect within your interview, but it will be a competency-based interview. If you're successful, you'll be updated by the 13th of December if you're going through to second round interview or not. If you are through to second round, the second rounds will take place between the 5th of January and the 8th of January. And your second round interview will be a 40 to 45 competency-based interview with a senior member of staff, so it'll be with one of our MDs or one of our senior managers, and then you'll also conduct a 45-minute case studies with us as well. Okay? So that's everything from the process side and where we are at the moment. So Katie, do you maybe want to cover off what the actual interviews themselves are going to look like?
Yeah, that's perfect. Thank you, Anya. So my name is Katie Brennan, and as Mairead said, I'm an analyst, so I've been with Accenture for about a year now. And I'm a good example of how you get to try out all the different industries in Accenture. So I've worked in public service, health, and now I'm working in financial services, but on a digital role. So that's quite a broad range of industries that I've worked in my year here. But obviously I'm only recently in Accenture, and I remember the interview process and all the different steps that you have to take to go through it. So I just thought I'd spend a bit of time talking about some of the key things for me that you really should prepare in advance of your interview. I think the great thing about it is when it comes to competency-based interviews, you can prepare an awful lot of content for this. You're not going to be asked something completely off the wall. So what I would definitely recommend doing is looking at competency-based questions online and seeing which ones, you can provide examples for. So tell us about a time when you were a leader, tell us about a time when you overcame obstacles, tell us about a time you worked in a team, and all of these can be prepared. And if you use the STAR technique, that's a great way of structuring your answers so that they're very clear and concise, and you're going through it point by point, how you got from beginning to the end, what you overcame, who you were working with, and the situation, all those different aspects. And it's giving a structure to your answer. And that's going to make it a lot easier for the person who's interviewing you to very clearly be able to say, where your skills lie and what you've experienced, how it's helped you in your career. So definitely spend some time going through some competency-based questions and really thinking about your experience in college, outside of college, doing extracurriculars. If you're on a sports team or anything like that, you can bring that into your interview a lot more than you'd realize. I mean, if you work on if you are on a sports team, that's absolutely an excellent example of working with a team to achieve an outcome. So use those examples and really think about, even if you've done work placements or internships or work part-time, anything that you can really bring in and show your experience and how you've kind of, overcome different things. So that's definitely something that you can prepare, and you can come into the interview feeling confident that you have answers to questions. Another thing I would say is know your CV and know your application inside out and back to front. Know your dates, know what you were working on when, and know what you put into your application, because I know the application process is difficult and it's long, but they will ask you questions about what you've put in your application, and you need to be very clear on that. So think back, and if you saved what you put into your application, all the better. Read through it and know what you've discussed, especially for the point, why do you want to work for Accenture? And it's likely that will be asked to you again in the interview situation. And if you said one thing in your application and you're saying something completely different, it's not necessarily a bad thing. It shows that you like several different things in Accenture, but just for kind of continuity purposes, it would be great if you're able to say, well, as I said in my application, I want to work for Accenture because of X, Y, and Z. So it gives us that continuity. So knowing your CV and knowing your application are really, really important, and being able to delve into those a little further. I mean, CVs are generally only 2 pages long. You don't really get to go into the nitty-gritty detail of what you've done. So the interview is an excellent opportunity for you to delve into that a little further. And also remember, if there's something that the interviewer hasn't touched on by the end of the interview that you would really like to talk about, they generally will say at the end, is there anything else that you would like to talk about? That is absolutely your opportunity to talk about something that you really want mentioned and noted in the interview process. So don't be afraid to fill that space and say, well, yes, actually, I'd like to tell you about this that I've done or this achievement. So use that time wisely, because it's absolutely a great time to show the interviewer, something of interest for you, and it's a great lasting note in the interview as well. So have a think about that, something that you really want to get across in the interview, and it's a great lasting impression. So have a think about it and kind of have something prepared and ready, almost like an elevator pitch, a last minute kind of thing about an achievement or whatever it may be which you'd like to highlight. So those are kind of key things for me. And I think the important thing is, whether it's your competency-based questions, your CV, or your application, you can prepare all of this in advance. And by prepare, I don't mean you should be, rote learning a script, but you should know what points you want to get across. You should know the things that you want to touch on, and you should do your best to work those into the interview as much as possible.
Thanks, Katie. Yeah, so thanks for that. We have a few questions in. I might just touch on a few points that Katie said as well. From my time going through interviews, and just even being back in college, and I did a number of graduate interviews, I think it's really important to know that the person who is interviewing you is interviewing a lot of people that day or that week, and it's important to really try and stand out. And thinking about the competency-based questions, it's very easy for someone to say, I was working to a tight deadline on an assignment in college, but everyone will say that for a time that you had to work as part of a team and things like that. So try and think of examples that no one else will say, or a few people will say, because it's a lot easier to remember that person and to stand out from the crowd if you say something that's a little bit different. And also, it is a really good way to bring in achievements and things like that into the conversation. So I think it's a skill in itself, being able to navigate a competency-based interview by answering the question, but also showing yourself off in like the most positive light. It's all about being remembered for positive reasons, and standing out from all the other people that day. Also, in terms of at the end of an interview and how to finish it, one thing that will happen in interviews generally will be that you'll be asked if you have any questions. I would use that as another opportunity to stand out, and the questions you ask, or if you want to have a quick discussion about, think about that, have a bit of perspective on market trends, and don't just come in and say it for the sake of it. It might not be something that's very necessary for the first round, but definitely if you make it through to a second round, an MD interview, I think it's a really good time to show your education on what is happening out there in the market, and maybe get into a short discussion quickly. I know my interview, a lot of the interview was based around the questions I asked at the end, and I think it's a good way to stand out. But the competency-based interview in the first round, I think that it will be mainly competency-based, but I think do whatever you can to also stand out from the crowd. So we just have a few questions in here that we might look to answer. So we have one from Jessica who said, "Hi guys, great video, very helpful. If successful in the first round, how can one prepare for a case study interview? What does it involve? Is it written, oral, or calculations?" So I might hand that over to Anya to have. I know this is definitely one of our frequently asked questions.
Yeah. So guys, when it comes to the case study, I'll be very honest, there's not a huge amount of preparation that you can do for it. If any of you were involved in the Accenture Experience events that we held, you would have seen the typical type of case study that was done there. So The only thing I can, and I will ask you all to do, is don't go asking people about it that you know have previously done it, because you can see those people when they come in to try and do it. If anything, that just flusters you a little bit more. So the only thing I would say is it's going to be a typical case study. It will be partly written, it will be partly oral, but just take it as it comes. We're not allowed to give you too much information on it. That's kind of part of the case study. And the whole thing will last about 45 minutes. It will be one-on-one, so it will just be yourself and either myself or someone from the HR department. Okay?
Yeah, thank you, Anna. That's great. One other question here from Kevin. Hi, thanks for the video. Can you confirm that all the interview invitations will be issued between today and tomorrow? So again, I'll go back to Anya on that one.
Yeah, so that is our aim at the moment. There's 450 to go out in total, so we've got through half of those today, so our aim is by tomorrow evening to have the rest of them sent out.
Great stuff. Okay, just a few questions then, and additional. What should I wear to my interview? So I suppose my perspective, I think for interview you should always look the part, and I wouldn't be concerned about what my interviewer is wearing. I would always try to look the part. I think from a HR perspective, Anya, you might be able to give a bit more, I suppose, input in that.
Yeah, so I suppose, guys, you have to remember it is a formal interview. I'm going to be coming in and meeting with people in our business, I'm meeting with managers, senior managers, MDs. So I would very much recommend it's not based on what people wear in the office on a day-to-day basis. So I would suggest you coming in a suit for your interview.
Okay, good stuff. And I think another important question is, when will I find out if I have the role? So those who make it through the whole way through first round case study and second round, when will those people find out if they have the role?
Yes, we aim to update everyone by the 15th of January if you have the position or not. So I think the 15th of January is a Friday, so between that Friday and the following Monday you should know if you've been successful or not.
Great. And then this is a follow-up to that. When should I expect to start the role?
So the role can start at any time. So due to the number of people that we hire every year, we bring in a number of start groups. So we'll start bringing people in September 2016 and aim to have our last start group in February 2017. And this was the way, to give you a bit more on that, the way we work those start dates is two things. One is due to business demand. So how many people, how many analysts they need to take in at that time, where your background best fits into the business, and then also to the people that got the offer. So we'll reach out to you guys when we're making the offer, see when you, I suppose, what dates will best suit you to start. So some people like to go traveling, and some people might be looking for the summer, or some people just simply want a break. So we'll reach out to you guys and see what month you would prefer, and then we'll try and work with you as best we can on that.
And just touching on that point, I would say your start group in Accenture is one of the most important groups you'll make in Accenture. So you'll generally start with a group of, I suppose, 8, 10, 12 people, depending on what the start group is. And they will be the people that you go on training with, that you ask your questions to, because you have to remember that once you start in Accenture, you will all then be sent to different project sites and different client sites. So it's good to have that one constant in terms of these are the people you started on the same day with, and you actually become so close to them you wouldn't even realize they are your best friends, both inside and outside of work. And also because of the international training, you do become very close to the group. So I would say that the start groups in Accenture is a great way to onboard graduates, because every month we'd have a group starting, and you can see straight away how well they click. So we've quite a number of questions coming in, so I'm just going to read through them. So from Anna, just a quick question regarding the interviewer. Are they randomly allocated, or are they assigned based on applications?
They're randomly allocated. So it really depends on the availability that we have from the manager at that time, and candidates are basically slotted against them. So it's not based on your application or background at all.
Perfect. Okay, next one from Shauna. Hi all, just wondering how many people, generally speaking, get through to the second stage of interviews, and then how many will be hired?
Okay, so we'll do 450 first round interviews. We'll aim to do 230 second round interviews, and then out of that, this year we'll look to hire 100 plus.
Perfect. Thank you, and thank you for the question. Next question, international training, can you expand? Sounds interesting. I don't know, Anya, do you want to give the official details of that? I can give the unofficial details sometimes.
Yeah, no problem. So that all really depends. So I think, as Katie touched on earlier on, I had the guys touch on it earlier on, you will join ACG. So you won't be aligned to an area. So we're basically split out our two main areas, management consulting, technology consulting. You'll be aligned to ACG when you start, but then based on your background. So for instance, if you're coming from, let's say, an engineering background, a technology background, your training will be done in Bangalore. So you'll do 1 week what's known as a pre-rec training. So basically training to get you prepared for 1 week here in our Dublin office, and then with your start group, you'll go on and do 2 weeks training in Bangalore. If you're coming from more of a business, finance, maybe law background, you will again come in, do your 1 week training in Dublin, and then you'll go to Chicago with your start group for 2 weeks. The only reason we split you out like that is based on the backgrounds. We feel that someone maybe coming from a more engineering background will actually fit into the training that we provide in Bangalore. They'll actually benefit from it a little bit more, and the same from someone coming from business or finance. They will definitely benefit from the training in Chicago a little bit more.
Yeah, thanks, Anya. And again, as I said, it is a very important place where you get, you know, you bond with your start group on your training. And for Bangalore or Chicago, they're both brilliant places to visit. And as well, the training is long days, I have to say. Like, you are starting at 8:30 and you're going right through, but there are evening activities and then you have a weekend in between. So it is a great place to get to know people, but also to get to know people from Accenture globally. So it's not just Ireland that is at these trainings, it's all Accenture analysts from all over the globe, and you really have seen nothing like it. And Accenture always talks about their one global network, where when you go to training you can really see how global they are, because you will be sitting in groups with people from literally all over the world, and it's great to see. So it is definitely one of the highlights of your analyst years. So we have a question for Katie. Katie, you said you've worked in a variety of areas as an analyst consultant. If you don't mind me asking, what did you study before joining Accenture, and do you think what you studied has had an impact on the choice of areas you've worked in?
Yeah, no problem. So I studied business and management in DIT, and I also, excuse me, I did a digital marketing certificate in DBS, an evening course. I actually primarily focused on marketing. My thesis was on political marketing. I think doing a business degree, you're used to dealing with broad subjects, and what was the second part of the question? Sorry.
Yeah, so what you've studied has had an impact on where you've worked in, what areas you've worked in Accenture?
I don't think it's had an impact. I think when I first came in, I was on a health role for a month, and then I moved to the Department of Public Service, and then I was in health again, and now I'm in finance. So a lot of it is, when you first come in, it's kind of availability of projects. You know, while it was a health project, there was a lot of business related skills in that project, so that's probably why it suited me. But as you kind of go on and gain different skills and get to know people in different areas, that's kind of how you move into different projects. So that's kind of how I got into this new digital role. So I think having kind of that business background, I can apply that to a lot of different industries. So that's kind of helped me out. I mean, there are people in the health industry in particular who would have health backgrounds, physiotherapists, nurses, and people who have pharmacology PhDs, but I'm obviously evidence that that's not necessarily a requirement, and the health industry needs people with business backgrounds just as much as it needs people with health and medical backgrounds as well.
Okay, thank you very much. Just on that, is there any final questions from anyone? Feel free to send them through now. Yeah, so I think if that's it, we may wrap it up. I hope that everyone is looking forward to their interview. I think they'll probably be all next week or so. So, if you Google the STAR approach, and I think Katie talked about it earlier, so STAR, that's definitely something to look up for competency-based questions, and it definitely helps you structure your answer rather than waffling and thinking off the top of your head. So I think an interviewer will appreciate that you take the time to actually stop and think and structure your answer rather than just blurbing it out. So that's the final piece of advice I would give. Anya, is there any final piece of advice you'd like to give?
No, I think, guys, just I suppose on that competency-based interviews as well, one of the things I've always found very handy, so when you do go in and you Google the questions, you can actually get positive and negative indicators on what an interviewer will be looking for. And I really would recommend looking into that. So it's about understanding what the competency is and exactly what the interviewer is looking for. So you do have to have your example prepared, but sometimes you find that if people don't fully understand the competency or don't understand the positive indicators of that competency, they might find themselves going off track a little bit. So I would really suggest looking up the positive and negative indicators and then actually basing your answers around that.
Okay, thank you. And Katie, I'll say the same to you. Any final piece of advice?
I think, be confident as well going into the interview, and don't be afraid to share, your personality and to share your passions and your interests. I think it's what will make you stand out to an interviewer. And also, don't be afraid if the interview kind of is quite conversational as well, because sometimes if you have something that stands out and is quite different, an interviewer will want to talk about that, and they can glean a lot of information from just talking about something generally and being a little bit more conversational. So don't be alarmed if an interview seems quite relaxed or conversational. There's nothing wrong with that. So just kind of roll with it. Don't forget to smile and just be relaxed. And if your interviewer asks you, do you want water, say yes, and just bring it in with you. It gives you a nice little pausing moment if you need it. But absolutely, I mean, if you've made it this far, you're absolutely well capable of doing incredibly well in the interview. And best of luck to everyone.
Okay, great. There's just a few questions after coming in, and I think, Anya, you might be able to answer these. So, just first of all, from Jasmine, if we are a student who studies in England, will our interview still proceed?
Yeah, so if you're not based in Ireland, so over the next 2 days, as I said, you will receive details around your interview. Now, if you're not based in Ireland, just come back and let us know, and for your first round interview, we will set up a phone interview. However, for your second round interview, you will have to come to the offices, to our Dublin offices, to complete it, and that will be face-to-face.
Okay, brilliant. Next one from Hannah. I am away on the 5th to the 8th of January. If I'm successful in the second round interview, could anything alternative be arranged?
So I would say that at the moment we're not going out to say that we're going to start, I suppose that we're able to accommodate people outside of those dates. We're saying that right now. What I would ask you to do is email me directly. You'll find my details on the Accenture brochure, so on our Accenture website. But I'll ask you to email me directly and I have a conversation with you about that.
Okay, great. Then just two more. And again, something similar. if the week of the 24th does not suit, which I presume is next week for the 23rd, can you rearrange for the following week?
We can't rearrange for first round interviews, unfortunately. Due to the volume, we are conducting 450 of them. And in order to update candidates as soon as we can, we're not able to rearrange for first round interviews.
Okay, perfect. And then finally, from Shauna, how many people applied for the position?
So in total, we got 1,600 completed applications.
So yeah, so I think it is a testament to everyone to say that there's 1,600 applications and they've made it down to 450.
Yeah.
Okay, just one other question in here. Just wondering, how much is your business knowledge tested in the first round of interviews? Just curious, as I'm not from a business background. I suppose I can give my perspective on that. I know that regardless if you've got a business background or not, that's not the type of person they're necessarily looking for. And I would always say that they are focused on the type of person you are. Are you logical? Are you structured? Are you, able to see a problem and look for a solution? So I don't think necessarily a business background is necessarily what they're always looking for. Obviously, people with business backgrounds sometimes can be an advantage in that they understand market trends and different parts of business like that. But just as much, engineers, science, like you actually meet people from all walks of life in Accenture, and you don't really understand it until you get in the door. And like you don't even ask anyone what they studied in college, because everyone is so vast and random, and especially within the ACG, what you end up doing and what you studied in college may not necessarily always be linked, which is, in my mind, a good thing, because you don't know what you don't know, so you don't know if you'll enjoy something until you try it. And there's been a lot of people who come in with a very clear idea of the type of work they want to do within Accenture, but then they get a flavour of something else, and actually their career takes another road. So it's good to be open, and it's good to not necessarily always think that you have to have a business background. I don't know, Anya, do you want to add anything to that? Oh, I think we've lost Anya. You're actually on mute, I think.
Sorry. So one of the things I would say is, don't be concerned about the background that you've come from, about the degree that you've done. That's not a concern for us whatsoever. It's about your interest in getting into consulting and your interest in getting into Accenture.
Yeah, I think that's it. Okay, I think if that's it, that's all the questions answered that have come through. So thank you very much for everyone who has come to view this evening, and I think it's going to be available on YouTube, which is going to be very cringy for all of us.
Oh no.
So thank you very much, guys. Talk to you soon.
Great, thank you. Bye.